guys, welcome back to Desi Chaat. You're with your host Naz and Happy. Right, we're talking about mental health today on World Mental Health Day. So it was purely coincidence, was it not? That we decided to do this. Yeah, but I think it's super important. Go on then. We're dying to speak.
Well, my question is, have you ever struggled with your mental
I want to say all the time. I want to say all the damn time.
anxiety, depression?
So anyone that listened to our first episode knows that I went through a nervous breakdown. And yes, I will keep beating that old horse. I will keep going on about it. But when I had that breakdown, I didn't know I'd had a breakdown or I was going through a breakdown. Excuse me, I do still have a cough. And also, if you hear rustling, it's because I've got a packet of sweets next to me. Anyone watching can see it. Anyone listening can hear it. I keep taking these sweets so I can keep my cough at bay, so just bear with any rustling noises. Sorry, but yeah, so I didn't know I was going through a nervous breakdown. At the time, I just thought I was just sad because I would just burst out into tears. Now, looking back on it, I'm like, that's not normal. Like, it would, like, okay, if you've heard like a sad song or something that reminds you of something, makes sense. That you've then had like a memory or something and then you're sad. I would be just walking up the stairs and start crying. I had a moment where I was cooking and no one else was at home. And I was totally fine 1 second, and then the next, I burst into tears. And then I've gone into the fetal position on the kitchen floor. That was, yeah. And at the time, I just kind of, and then I continued cooking. It's only because once I was coming out, I went to the doctors because I've never suffered with headaches or migraines, and I was suffering with migraines. And my sleep was every 20-30 minutes I was waking up on the dot. I've had people say to me, really? Like every 20-30 minutes? It was every 20-30 minutes I was waking up. And it was, my brain was so tired but alert, like it couldn't shut down. It was really strange. I remember one night, my husband woke me up and he said, "What's wrong?" And I'm looking at him like he's weird. I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean, what's wrong?" Now, sat bolt upright in the middle of the bed, fast asleep. I don't know how he didn't think I was possessed. I don't know why he thought it was the better option to wake me up instead of running away. But yeah, that's how like exhausted I was. I was when I came to properly. I was sat bolt upright in the middle of the bed, fast asleep. It's when I went to the doctor for the migraines that when I told her everything, she said, "It sounds like I've had a nervous breakdown. But, you know, how are you feeling now?" And then that's where it stemmed from. In regards to anxiety, I feel like I've had it my whole life. Again, being the eldest brown, well, / Asian girl, I think it's kind of just it's written.
It's great.
Yeah, you can't be the eldest Asian girl and not have anxiety. I'm sorry, you're a liar. No offense to anyone, but there's just no way I would be different to everybody else is. Tell me I'm wrong. You tell me.
I think
Yeah. You tell me then. What about, like, how have you ever struggled with mental health and how has it impacted you?
yeah, should take the time away.
Yeah.
We are thinking about getting a set of 2, by the way.
We just need more listeners.
Yeah.
And then we can be like, yeah, let's invest in. Then we'll splash the cash. Do that.
Again, for anyone who follows my Instagram, because I always share that as well. Or my personal one will know that I've had a lot of struggles. When I was young, so like 13, it was depression, weirdly. Because I say I was still a kid. Yeah. So I was referred by my school to CAMS, which is like children's mental health
Yeah.
services. And so it's always been a struggle.
Yeah.
Depression, anxiety, oldest Asian daughter being told to look after siblings, and then but then also your parents,
Yes.
and also your grandparents,
Yeah.
and also don't do this, but do this.
Yeah. I feel that in my core. It's stirring up a lot of memories. No, I get it, because you are bringing up. Okay, thank you. I remember vividly being like a therapist almost for my parents whenever they'd argued, and that was like an honour just left for me.
Like a middleman.
Yeah, like Dad would tell me, this is what your mum's like, and then I'd be like, yeah, but Dad, remember the good stuff, because I'm trying to make them patch up. No, like 13, 14-year-old needs to be dealing with that, but yeah, it does definitely take its toll. And for myself, now that, I have spoken to a therapist for a long time. I'm not now at the moment, but when I was coming out, that was something the doctor did advise us to see a therapist. So I was lucky that I knew someone that knew a lady who was a Muslim lady, because that is something that I needed my therapist to understand. Because in our religion, it's not as easy to be like, well, your parents are toxic, kick them out, like, get rid of them. You can't, because, and religion very clearly plays a big part in my life. So I couldn't just be like, well, all right, when religion tells us you've got to, at the baseline of it all, respect your parents at the very least. So when I managed to, chat to this lady and she understood it from the Islamic perspective and not be like, well, they're toxic, get rid, say bye now. She brought something to light. She was like, you realise that you have, like, from the sounds of it, she was very careful with the wording, but she was like, it sounds like your dad's got narcissistic traits. And it's like, I don't even know what that means. So, there was no buzzwords of narcissist at the time, and, TikTok videos to explain what it is. And now, when I started looking into it, I was like, oh my God, he is textbook. Like, it was self-serving. It was, if you ever upset him, he'd make sure you knew. He wouldn't talk to you for weeks. I mean, I remember this one time he said to me, he went, oh, I remember, bearing in mind, I was the only girl. I was Daddy's girl. So I was, in my mind, my dad loved me to bits, and I'm sure he did in his own way at some point somewhere. I remember I was about 18 and he woke up one morning and he's come downstairs and, I swear to God, randomly gone, you're doing something wrong, aren't you? What are you talking about? No, you're doing something wrong. Have you got a boyfriend? I was like, what? Like a random Saturday morning. What? No. And he's like, you have. I was like, what are you on? And I'm thinking in my head, maybe like, because he knew a lot of people. Maybe someone said something. I mean, I didn't. For, clarity purposes, I didn't. Maybe someone's like thought something. Maybe they've seen me with my brother. Because that had happened as well, where someone told me when my brother went to my dad and went, we've seen your daughter with a boy. Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah. But my dad, like, he went, I went, what are you talking about? Where are you getting this from? And he went, I had a dream. Oh, God. I had a dream when you were, I need you to speak to me for 2 weeks. Because he had a dream. I mean, now, like, I know the problem was him. But yeah, so, and then, like, my mum, to a degree, covert narcissist. So it does, you are walking on eggshells. And that does not help your anxiety. You are walking on eggshells. You are having to take a lot of the reins. When reality is, you really shouldn't need to be. There's a lot of blame put on you. And again, there's adults in the house that should be able to take it on themselves. Yeah, be an adult. So, yeah, I when you said Brown, eldest girl, I feel it in my core. because I look back and I'm like, how are you still alive? How have you like survived certain things?
We have.
We have. That's why you're here listening to us. So my breakdown was one of the major points where I started taking mental health seriously. And then postnatal depression was another. Postnatal depression was just awful. Awful. But that's maybe another topic for another day when we have like a professional in.
I think we'll have a full podcast episode on postnatal depression.
Yeah. It's needed.
Because we saw my mum go through it.
Yeah.
And it's serious.
Yeah. It is. But I just had a question for you and I've forgotten what I was going to say.
I had a question for you as well.
Okay, go on.
It was, so you kind of touched on it. I was going to say, how does being Desi impact all of this, like your mental health, and also being the oldest Asian sibling? Did you feel like you had extra expectations, things that you had to do?
Okay, remember that question for yourself as well. And everyone's strapping because we're here for another 4 hours with this question.
Well, here's the list.
Let me just open this scroll. Being Desi definitely impacts because the people around you, for me, I don't mean to generalize, but from what I've dealt with, they fall in two camps. One is you'll get told you're not religious enough. So your connection to your God, your Lord, is not strong enough. So you're lacking in faith. And that's why you're struggling mentally. Yeah, that's a common one. Yeah. And then the other one was, there's no such thing as mental health. I actually had a conversation with a family member in regards to postnatal depression. This was years after I'd had it. And we were just discussing it, and she went, there's no such thing. Bearing in mind this lady is around my age. And she went, there's no such thing. I went, what? Of course there is. I've been through it, and I've even helped my sister-in-laws that have needed the help and found them pointing them in the right direction. I said, no, it does exist. And she went, no, it's a white man term. It's a white man term. Our mothers never had it. And I went, no, our mothers most likely did have it. They just shut up and carried on because they didn't see any way out or didn't even know it existed. That's the difference. So being Desi definitely impacted because it's almost like they'd rather you pretend to be ill than be like, oh yeah, I've got mental health issues going on right now. They'd rather you were like, oh no, I'm ill. And what was the part B to the question?
Expectations because you're the eldest.
Oh yeah, I always say this to my brothers, that your childhood and my childhood is very different. The rules were so much harsher, stricter. For me, there were far more expectations off of me. Excuse me. That's not to say my brothers didn't have it, but from my perspective, they definitely had it easier than I did.
And they didn't have it as hard to the same extent.
Yeah. I don't remember a time my brother was getting told my dad had a dream about it. I don't remember that. Okay, so your turn. The question was the big impact of integrated.
Yeah. My way of dealing with trauma is so long.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot. A wicked sense of humor.
Yeah. It gives you a great sense of humor, and you just laugh at it.
Yeah. We've done that.
Yeah. Not to say I don't times. But being Desi, some of what you said resonated with me. The whole they would rather you were ill, or they'll say that you're ill when actually you're struggling mentally.
Yeah.
So I took some time off of uni to assist depression and anxiety that formed into the eating disorder, and I took time off of uni because I was too ill. I couldn't get out of bed. And so if anyone asked, I only found out later, if anyone asked, like, oh, what's Happy up to? And like, how's you going? And what do you think she's going to do? Or when it's always, what's she going to do career-wise? Is she going to be a doctor? Is she going to be a pharmacist? What else is there?
Lawyer?
Yeah. Oh, is she going to go into law?
Yeah.
I was doing that. So not, but no, apparently, that just wasn't why. And told like, oh, don't post too much about it online. And even then, I got into the gym and stuff again. It was out.
And what about being the eldest Indian girl?
Being the eldest, I felt like I had to pave the way so that my brother and sister could have more freedom, because I didn't want to go through the same as what I'd gone through. So like, I guess it's a bit my culture is different. Like you can date, but then it's the whole like, oh, you shouldn't live together until you're married. But for a good amount of time, we weren't allowed to date. But I just kept pushing, didn't I? Like, we should be allowed to date. We should be allowed to date. When am I allowed to date? And then my dad finally, I must have been in sixth form, so like it was just about to go off to you. He was like, fine, you can date, but here are the rules.
Was one of the rules he had to be there with you?
I don't remember the entire conversation. The main part I remember is I was in the car, so were my siblings. So they saw all of it, but they did see that it was finally shifted in the more forward thinking.
Yeah.
In the more forward thinking, which is good. But yeah, I felt like there was a lot of pressure being the older sibling, and there were more expectations, definitely. Like, who's going to clean? Who's going to cook? Who's going to make sure that the brother and sister are okay? Who's, for some reason, going to try to keep both parents happy? And you know how you were saying how you'd end up in the middle with your parents? I was in the middle of my mum and the extended family. So it was a weird dynamic. Where it's like, oh, she said this, and then and then she said that, and I'm in the middle doing like, why can't we all just get along? This isn't nice.
I was just gonna say, this is you now.
No.
Yeah. She's literally like Barney. Barney and Friends is Happy. You live in DNA. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So in Happy's world, she is Barney, and everyone's holding hands and singing. What is Barney's theme song? Oh, stop. Don't. You have to know a Barney's theme song.
I just remember what your song was.
What is it? I like you, you like me. We're one big happy family. I'm sure that's what it is. I know this is a tangent, but I'm sure that's what it is. But I feel like that's your theme song. I love you, you love me. We're one big happy family. It's something like that. I remember you said like you see like everyone covered in glitter.
Yeah.
That like fits that bill, does it not? Yeah.
But that's probably response slash coping mechanism.
Yeah.
I have had a lot of therapy. I learned all these psychology concepts through my therapy. Yeah. The theme song, all I could think of is like.
I feel like we might get like, I mean, not yeah, exactly. And we don't need like trouble already. We just we'll create trouble later on.
Well, when you said that, what popped into my head was this really weird meme where Barney looks evil. It's funny. It's funny.
Yeah. But so when you were going through your mental health struggles, so we've said about like you know you went through it. What does it mean to go through it? Like, what were some of the things that you found? Like I said to you, I was like crying on the kitchen floor in fetal position. Again, I'm eating a sweet, so if I'm mumbling my words, it's because I'm eating a sweet, okay. But like, what was something you were going through that it's like, oh yeah, I remember feeling that or doing
Um, when I was like in the eating disorder.
that.
Um, I don't mean for the podcast to take a dark turn. It was just the whole like, I don't want to be here anymore.
I feel reality. How can I know we're not talking about like, but then there is a dark side to this. We have amazing senses of humor because trauma, but you know, there is a dark side to this.
Yeah.
And there's just no denying it. That it's just part and parcel.
Yeah.
I don't apologise.
Yeah, that was definitely the biggest struggle. But it was because of the eating disorder. It was more, I learned again through therapy. It wasn't that I wanted to just, it was, I just didn't want to be in that situation anymore. It was too hard to be in the situation. And then, but that's when the friend was like, so what are you going to do about it? I was like, oh, I guess I could try getting better.
Just a thought.
Actually try. Maybe things would get
better. I'm glad you tried. Exactly. You know.
But as well, the what came out was a lot of it was to do with my upbringing and family.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love my family.
Yeah.
But they are so dysfunctional. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, everyone's family is dysfunctional. I'm like, no. And those close to me will be like, it's extra special.
So basically, we need another podcast and have your family. So, do one of mine, and then you can hear about yours.
Socials and what certain factors who might cause trouble if I share some of the negative things that they do.
Yeah.
Well, shouldn't have done.
Exactly. I always say this to anyone willing to listen. If you're behaving in a manner and then you're worried about it coming out, you should stop behaving that manner in the first place. Because if you don't want it coming out, then don't be, then you know it's wrong. So, but yeah, so you took like, your thoughts went into a dark place, that kind of stuff. For me, the thing I found was stuff, I've always had like panic attacks, though I never knew what panic attacks were. So, you know, and again, because growing up with, you know, my dad's mood being volatile, when he was great, he was like the best. And then when he was off, he was really off, and he made sure you knew that he was off. So you were walking on eggshells. You know, that was just the nature of it. So I was highly anxious as a child. So no doubt there would have been panic attacks that I just kind of brushed away, like just not knowing. But I remember, like, at one point, I've gone to the shops, and it's wild how, you know, like, your brain convinces you of something. So I've got to the till, and the lady is scanning my items. I have actively the cash in my hand. I can see this cash. My brain has convinced me I don't have the money. So I end up having this panic attack at the end of a till in the middle of Morrison's. And it's that bad that the lady behind me in the queue said to me, are you all right, love? Because I've got tears in my eyes, I am sweating, and I'm like, I'm trying to calm myself down and be like, you've got it, look, it's right there. Why? And, you know, even if I didn't, what's the worst that would have happened? I would have said, oh, I'm so sorry, I've not got my money. She would have looked at me a bit weird, and like, all right, see you later. But no, that was like the end of the world. And I had it. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, calm down, it's right there, it's right there. And the lady at the tail's asking me, but it's like her voice is distorted almost as well.
Like you got into
Yeah. And I'm like, and that's something that I was dealing with at the time, with these like panic attacks that I didn't know were panic attacks. Because again, it's a lack of knowledge within the Asian community. We're not willing to accept or hear that this could be something. So again, I'm just going through this completely blind not knowing that I'm even stuck somewhere. Does that even make sense? You're like kind of stuck in this.
You can't move. Like
Yeah,
paralysis.
you're stuck in it, and I'm not just talking with the panic attack. I'm talking about like generally when you're going through something like an episode, a depressive episode, or whatever it is. For me, like because there was no knowledge, and it wasn't an Asian thing. It was just white people have that kind of stuff. Brown people don't. Up your worship, or there's no such thing. What are you talking about? It's all in your head. It's like that, and then you're kind of stuck. It's not even like a great cloud. It's like sludge. You're kind of just stuck. And no one there to help pull you out, to be like, oh, it's okay. So now, it's why I'm so vocal, why I'll talk to anyone, because the reason I suggested this topic is because I had a conversation with a friend. So we were talking about panic attacks, and she was like, I never knew that what I'd experienced years prior was what she goes, I thought it was just me. But you're saying what I went through as well. So can you please talk about it? Because I didn't realise. Yeah. And I feel like that was I think one of the most debilitating kind of things of what I was going through, because everything else I was kind of pushing through, like I said, crying on the kitchen floor, and then I've just got back up as normal to continue cooking. I mean, come on, that makes me really angry now. I'm like, why? Yeah. But the panic attacks, I think, were the most debilitating. As much as the migraines, they weren't in my control. The panic attacks, they feel like they are in your control. And it's wild because it's your brain really convincing you of something. Like I had another moment where,
like you did that.
it's I'll tell you what happened. My husband was going to a wedding in Birmingham, and he said, oh, I'll take the kids. And normally I'd be like, heck yeah, a full Saturday to myself. Yeah. And that was my initial response. I was like, I mean, I don't like to show him how excited I am by it. In case he's like, okay, calm down. You can keep one. No. So, I mean, I do love my kids, by the way. I swear I do. But he said, oh, I'll take them. I was like, okay, like, yeah. He's not even got out the front door yet. And my mind started going. And in my head, I can actively see they're on the motorway, they've had a crash. And they're all wiped. They've all gone. And he's not even at the front door yet. But I'm thinking, no, come on, calm down. It's all right. It's okay. They've gone. And the thoughts are just getting worse and worse. And I'm sat here, and at one point, I'm actually crying because I've convinced myself that this is real. This has happened. Yeah, this has happened. So I ring my husband. He doesn't pick up. And that's it. I've spiraled out of control. I'm like, yeah, they've crashed. The kids have gone. He's gone. This is what's happened. And I'm just expecting a call from the police or something. And then he's rang me back, not even much later. And I am I'm trying not to be teary, but it's happening. And I'm like, where are the kids? And it's like, it's all right, what's happened? But I don't want to tell him because he's all the way in Birmingham. He'll spoil his day. And I'm like, are you better than me? Right here. Do you want to talk to them? Like, yeah, no, I think okay though. I think okay because I've convinced myself that they're dead. They've had a crash in the motorway. And it's wild now that I think that that's how far my brain took it. And that's what I mean when I say like, yeah. But it literally, and I've had a panic attack over, so it's not even just that I'm physically feeling like I'm dying. I'm actually like mourning the loss that's not even happened. It's so intense and so crazy. I don't know. Have you ever had anything like that happen, or is this just like a me thing?
I've definitely done the whole like get this stuff how do you do it? And I was like,
Yeah.
and they're like, like, how do you challenge those thoughts? And I'm like, oh, and they're like, put it into content. Think about it rationally. Try to think about it in real terms. Or am I just jumping to the worst conclusion? Because I didn't used to jump to the worst conclusion about things. It was either like, oh, so this happened to my partner, and this is when we were dating long distance. Or it would be like when I was getting to the gym, everyone's looking at me, oh my god, going to do something wrong, and I'm going to fall apart, and we're not going to let that happen at all. I don't know where it comes from. Anxiety, trauma. It's trauma.
No.
Maybe panic attacks were debilitating because I don't know how, but it would always turn into like hyperventilating and then thinking that I was going to die.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I couldn't breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel really bad. And Sarah was like, "Oh, goodness, she's not breathing," and I'm like, "Breathe." No, we die. Yeah, I'm glad that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the moment we can start recognizing it really helps. Okay, no way I'm going into panic attack mode. This is, and you do have to really switch on the rational side of your brain to talk over the part of your brain that's screaming, "Oh my God, no!" Yeah, you really, and the moment you start recognizing your patterns, okay, you then start being able to cope with however it is. So, like yourself, thankfully, the panic attacks have subsided. I will have moments now that do kind of throw me off like a little because I'm like, what is it that I'm feeling? Why am I? And then I'll be like, oh, okay, calm down, like, okay. And I've, we've had certain family members who are quite a bit younger, went through like a time in their lives that, they really struggled with their mental health. And it was like, because I'd been through it, I'm so glad that I can be vocal about it because it was becoming a thing of, oh no, it's a religious aspect. It's if you're Asian, you know what this is, a jinnat/jadoo thing, like, black magic.
Oh.
There's we tried so many other avenues before we accept mental health. Before we accept mental health, we're even willing to go to like witches and warlocks. We're like, bring out a unicorn to help heal us, but no, not mental health.
So, just thinking about when what I think it was a panic attack.
Yeah.
But she convinced herself that it was her heart.
Yeah.
They went to the doctor, went to the hospital, all these checkups and everything. They did try to talk to her about anxiety. Again, I think it's this whole Asian thing of like, no, it's health. Something's wrong, not that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's almost like if you admit that it's something in your brain, it's like for Asians, it feels like it's like you're saying, father left, that person crazy. And there's no in between. It's like sane, crazy, nothing in between. Like you can't have any mental health issues or struggles because if you do, you're crazy. Like that's it. It gives off that vibe. And I'm shocked you've never heard or come across like someone blaming like black magic or no, because I hear that a lot. Like
I think I've seen it in my program.
Yeah, we do the program.
Zoom in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. No, a common one genuinely is, oh, it's black magic. Oh, it's another evil eye. Oh, it's, it's like, I mean, I do believe, I'm going to be honest, I do believe those things exist. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I don't. I truly do. At the same time, I don't think it's like if you're having a panic attack, that is like a jinn or something coming at you trying to like strangle you or something. I'm pretty sure it's not. So, but like I said, we did have someone, close to us that she was quite young and going through this. And at the time, like I was coaching her out of like these panic attacks because they were getting so intense. And she was like, I am dying. This is what's happening. And obviously, you're young and let's be real, if we convinced ourselves we were dying, we'd be like, we're not ready to die. I'm not ready to die yet. It was all self-taught that, okay, you're having a panic attack, you can't cry about not having money when you have it in your hand again. What do you smell? What do you see? What do you touch? I feel like it is something it's weird because I didn't want to talk about this, not because I feel it's taboo, but because I thought there's already so much out there, information wise and people's experience wise, that I thought we'd be like just repeating what others have said. Does that make sense? But after that conversation with that friend, I realised that it's actually not, because the internet world and the real world are two very different places.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like I've spoken majority of this. Yeah. Yeah.
You guys, struggle with the mental health. Have you ever had this thing of people will not see that you are struggling unless they can physically see it?
Yeah.
If they don't think it's a thing, they're like, oh, well, you don't look like you're struggling.
Yeah.
You don't look unwell.
Yeah. That is. Yeah. God, yeah. Because that was something I've always said to people, that, well, just like if you've broken your leg, it's very clearly broken. And then you're not just going to sit at home and chant stuff on it, or stick a plaster on it and pretend it's a scratch. You are then going to go to the hospital and get it sorted. The same way, if there's something in your brain that isn't working the way that it should or could or whatever, go get it sorted. Don't sit at home and do chants or stick a metaphorical plaster over it, because it's not going to work.
Or ignore it.
Yeah, or ignore it. It doesn't work because, the reason I had my breakdown is it was family induced. That was actually a turning point. It's why I always refer back to it, because I always see life as before my breakdown and after my breakdown. Because who I am today is not who I was before my breakdown. It changed me completely. And in a weird way, I'm really thankful I had that breakdown. But it's because, to me, it's like, well, if my own family I don't want to include my siblings in that, because it wasn't them. So mainly, if you want to put it this way, I might get like crap for this, but parents. In my mind, it became well, if my own parents, the people that are supposed to love me and care for me, if it could be induced by their actions, them knowing as well that this is hurting, that's still continuing on their own little paths, regardless. So, well, then who am I to sit back and think anyone else is gonna, who owes me anything at that point to be like, oh no, let's look out for Naz. Then only Naz can look out for Naz. So I am two totally different people, before and after. Hence why I will keep going on about my breakdown. That is just that's my selling point. Sorry. Okay, back to this. Enough about me. So someone said to you, okay, so you've written, have you experienced mental health struggles, anxiety or depression? She's written, or they've written rather, all of the above. When I opened up to parents about it, I was told it was in my head and my fault. Ooh, false. Oh. Yeah, in my head thing, yeah, but the fault thing?
It has reminded me of what you were saying. There was like oh, it's not that bad. It's oh, that doesn't happen to us.
Yeah.
There must be something.
Yeah. Okay, someone else said, absolutely, unfortunately for many, it's not a valid illness unless they can see it. Broken leg thing again. Literally that again. Feel free to use my analogy, by the way. You're welcome. Someone else wrote, suffered with postnatal depression and sent me the story through DM. Like we said, we will have a whole episode on postnatal depression. It deserves its own segment.
Yeah.
But yeah, postnatal depression is awful. Awful. And the quicker we can just accept that it happens, the better it is all around. Because I actually had someone say to me today, funnily enough, I'm just pulling up my answers. I had someone say to me today, she said, and it made me realise, a client of mine, she went, it just makes sense with postnatal depression. You just need to think about it a little, because all the changes that are happening physically and mentally and then hormonally, how can you not have some kind of a breakdown after that? I said, yeah, Because it's not just physical change. It's your whole life has done a complete, like, there's an overhaul. How can you be expected to just take it in stride? And if you can, great. Like, you're really good at accepting change.
But you don't have
No? Okay, let me see what else I've got. Okay, so we've got imposter syndrome, which I am not resentful at all about because of our last episode.
we've had a technical massive glitch.
Yeah.
I was going to say blip. I'm like, no, it's really a blip. But I guess we could think about imposter syndrome in terms of how it affects your mental health. Would it be mental health day?
Yeah.
World mental health day.
Yeah.
I think it does affect your mental health.
Yeah.
Because you're second guessing yourself. If you already have anxiety, it's not going to help.
Yeah, no.
If you're feeling down, it kind of puts you down. So,
yeah,
it's
not at all. Not at all. Okay, so we've got someone wrote, we don't talk about it enough. So many people suffer with anxiety and they just get on with it, which is really sad. It's a sad, sad truth. And again, it just reminds me of crying my eyes out to then get up and cook, because you just kind of get on with it. You just kind of like, okay, brush those tears off. Let's just carry on cooking. Like, you suffer with it and you just carry on as if it's like.
And you try to hide. Yeah, I tried to hide it until I was like, oh, I think it help.
Yeah. Yeah. My therapist actually said that to me. She said, you're very self-aware, which at the time I took as like, heck yeah, I am. Now I realize, like, well, is that a good thing though? Because it didn't help me in the long run. She said, you're very self-aware because you hide it really well. Like no one knew until you actively broke apart. And even in that, you were trying to maintain, like, keeping it together. So it's such a sad reality that you kind of just try and, it's like the celebrities you hear about, the ones that were suffering with their mental health. And like Robin Williams, off the top of my head, you can't tell me you watched him or anything he did, movies, interviews, anything, and thought, this man's struggling with his mental health. You can tell.
You can hide it.
Yeah.
And it was like when you spoke about that coach persona.
Yeah.
You can just turn that on and hide it, because I remember when we got bad news to the family and I was upset and grieving. I don't know how I was able to be like, right, turn it on, coach happy, just.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah. I get that, because there's so many days and then we just switch it on. We do.
It's exhausting.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Okay, someone else wrote seeking help. It's really sad. And I think that is something that we struggle with. Because
it's the whole in the first place.
Yeah.
Is it because that's seen as a bad thing in our community?
I feel like, for myself, I can only speak for myself. I feel like you don't even know you're going through it because it's not spoken about enough for you to actually get to the point where you're like, I need help.
Yeah, it's hard if you don't have the information.
Because if you don't even know you're going through something, how can you then sit there and be like, oh yeah, I need help for this? You're just kind of like pushing through. But if you are aware, because there is more information out there now, I am older than the internet. So now that you have the internet and all the information at your fingertips, you are more likely to self-identify as like, oh yeah, I am going through this or whatever it is. Then after that, seeking help, what could hinder it? You're right. Could it be because you'll be looked down upon, frowned upon? Like, seeking that.
Everybody knew I was going and getting help, but no, it's a talk about it. Let's just brush it under the rug.
Yeah. And it's like, I know of a close family member who needed to see a therapist. That's not even me being funny. I laugh because of how much she needed to see a therapist. Yeah. She really did the therapist. She'd had this, massive change in her life that had, changed the whole trajectory of her life. And I said, you need to see a therapist. There's no two ways around it. And it was just like, oh, they're just going to make me sit there and ask me how I feel. And I was like, no, but even if that's the case, they have the tools. You need to go. And it was like, oh, no. Maybe I think she went to one session and then it was like, yeah, it's not for me.
Sure.
Yeah. And, I feel like seeking help, it's so strange because when you do tell someone that, okay, maybe go see a therapist, like, try it, and it's, you looked at like, and then I've even been told, I don't know, what you're talking about. Of course I don't. The Margie doctor? I don't need that.
But also, I think in men, it's like toxic masculine says, I don't know, I'm fine, I can just push through, or I can man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's why, like, now, with my son, I mean, not now, since he's been born, really, I'm like very open. No, I mean, for goodness sake, the stuff they learn from school is like, because you can't dictate how other people bring up their kids. So he's come back and he's like, oh, boys don't cry. I mean, he's 13. And I know he purposely says things to just rile me up now. But, he's like, oh, boys don't cry though, Mum, innit? And I was like, yes, they do. Yes, they do. And they could cry a lot. Look at your father. He cries all the time. And he does. He does. He's secure kid and he doesn't cry really. But, that can, the show, this is us. He cried through that. I mean, if he's listening to this, he'd be like, I didn't cry that much. But, okay, fine, but he cried so. And he'll cry through movies. I mean, my first incident to that was we were watching the movie, I don't know if you watched it, The Breakup.
Of it.
It's Jennifer Aniston, and I forget what the guy's called. And it's basically about a couple and how they're not, getting on. The guy's not understanding her. I think she's not understanding him, something like that. And they end up having this breakup. But before they have this breakup, she has like this whole kind of speech thing that she gives him. Sweet. Anyway, I've still got that. I've still got one. So anyway, in this movie, so if you watch the movie, you know this speech that she gives about how she wants him to want to help her or something like that in the kitchen, and there's this whole thing. So it was me and my cousin, his wife, and then my husband, my cousin's wife, and my husband. Tears. Me and my cousin looked at each other like, what? Why are you crying? I mean, we shouldn't have, but we were. We were very judgy at the time because, having said that, I probably would still now because I'd be like, that's not even sad. That's not even a sad speech. No, I'm not an easy cry. I'm not. That's why I struggled so much when I had my breakdown because I was like, why am I crying so much? Why do these wall works keep turning on? I don't like it. It's a lack of control, isn't it? I don't like it. But,
yeah. But I think we also see it as a lack of control, like when we cry. But now I've just accepted that I'm a very sensitive person emotionally, and that I will cry when dogs are on TV, especially if something sad happens to them, or like some of the speeches in the movie. I don't even watch the full thing. I just watch the speeches, the clips. Yeah, my eyes out.
I'm laughing at you. I'm just laughing at you. Crying at the Barbies. I have seen those clips as well, and they are moving. I'm not crying, but then again, I'm just not. I just am. So if a show has made me cry, like This Is Us has made me cry, like then I'm like, okay, this is.
Oh, I'd probably be on the floor.
Yeah. This is.
I would literally be like, why is this so sad? Like, oh my god, man.
Right. Happy. You do it. You're watching it. That's homework.
I've already watched it.
Okay. Okay, and then so we've said that one about seeking help. Okay, and then the other one, do you remember I said to you is about asking if it's normal for a Muslim woman to be a PT? I think that feels like brown woman, not Muslim woman. We said we'd do that as a whole other episode.
Yeah. What it's like to be a fitness professional and to be brown.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for interacting. We will continue to shame you into interacting with our boxes, and we have no shame about that. I don't. Anyway, Happy might feel a bit bad because, again,
I'm just glad you're having some info.
Yes. Yeah, it does help us along as well because it gives us different insights as well. That is the whole purpose, is it not?
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just us talking. So
Yeah, which it still
it's nice to
technically
share
is,
other
but
people's stories.
technically
Yeah.
it is just talking, but
We'll
It's-
have some guests though.
yes. Yeah, we've got some exciting stuff planned, but we do need you to please share and follow, subscribe, whatever it is on Spotify, share the podcast, send it out, even if it's as a hint to like toxic family members, send this episode out, do it, you gotta.
Yeah. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share everywhere, and watch on loop.
Yes.
And listen on loop.
Yeah. Or listen the first time, and then, because you've already heard it and now you know the jokes, then just mute it, but just keep it playing.
Yeah.
We need that interaction. We need those followers. We need, what was it? How many, like, views or whatever it is, per episode? I mean, that Spotify helps push you up. Was it 50 or something, did you say?
Oh, I don't know, but we're on 16.
Okay, so we've got a while. Come on, guys.
Help us get to 50.
Yeah, come on. This is fun for us, but it's also time consuming, and we're doing this for you. No, we're not. Doing it for us, but you as well.
Also, it's important.
It is.
Especially today's episode was
Yes.
particularly important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll end it there.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Or listening if it's on Spotify.
Yeah. Okay. See ya.